Being lonely alone is better than being miserable together. Have you ever heard that before? Most human suffering comes from not being able to be alone. These words carry a weight that only those who've lived long enough truly understand. Many older men find themselves at a crossroads. The house feels quiet. Meals feel empty. Friends suggest finding someone new. Family members worry about you being alone, and suddenly remarriage seems like the answer. But what if it's not? What if remarrying after 60 could quietly undo the peace, stability, and financial security you've worked your entire life to build? I spent over 20 years researching senior wellness, reading medical journals, and interviewing healthcare professionals. And today, I need to share something that experts warn about, but most people never discuss openly. Remarriage after 60. Someone once shared this advice. Even if you're standing at the altar, even if guests are seated, even if everything is ready, if something feels wrong, cancel it. The temporary embarrassment is nothing compared to years of regret. Think about that, because here's what nobody tells you. Love and marriage are not the same thing, especially after 60. Medical professionals, relationship psychologists, and even divorce attorneys see patterns repeatedly, patterns most senior men don't recognize until it's too late. Today, I'm going to share 5 expert-backed reasons why senior men should think very carefully before remarrying. These aren't opinions. These are realities that financial advisors, healthcare workers, and family counselors witness every day. And if you're watching this, whether you're considering remarriage or you know someone who is, please watch until the end. This information could change everything. Hit that like button, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and let's begin. The first reason experts warn against remarriage after 60 is financial. By the time a man reaches his 60s or 70s, he's usually built something solid, a home, retirement savings, Social Security benefits, maybe a pension, investments, decades of work, decades of careful planning. Remarrying, however, can legally tie all of that to another person in ways most men never see coming. Financial planners call this the silent wealth transfer, and they say it's one of the biggest risks a senior man can take. Here's what happens. Robert was 72 when he met Patricia at a community center in Seattle. She was kind, attentive, made him laugh for the first time in years since his wife passed. 6 months later, they married. Within 2 years, Robert discovered Patricia had significant credit card debt, medical bills from a previous illness, and adult children who needed financial help constantly. Suddenly, Robert's retirement savings weren't just his anymore. They were legally connected to Patricia's obligations. His financial advisor told me later, Robert came to my office in tears. He said, I thought love would protect me. I didn't know a marriage license would change everything. Medical professionals who work with seniors see this pattern constantly. If your new spouse has debt, it can become yours. If she has health issues requiring expensive care, those costs can drain your retirement funds. You could lose benefits from your late wife's pension or Social Security survivor benefits. A simple signature on a marriage license changes everything. Your tax bracket, your will, your estate planning. Lawyers who handle senior divorces will tell you stories that would break your heart. Men who lost their homes, their savings, their peace of mind, all within a few years. One divorce attorney I spoke with said this, I've seen men in their 70s working part-time jobs because their second wife took half of everything in the divorce. These are men who should be retired, enjoying grandchildren. Instead, they're stocking shelves to survive. Now, some people say that's just being cynical. That's not trusting love. But here's the truth. Love doesn't hold up in court. Contracts do. You spent your whole life earning your security. Experts say that at this stage, it's wiser to protect what you've built rather than gamble it on a legal arrangement because companionship doesn't require paperwork. You can love someone, share experiences, build a deep bond, travel together, support each other, all without putting your entire estate on the line. Think about what you've built. Really think about it. Your home, your savings, the inheritance you plan to leave your children or grandchildren. Is it worth risking all of that? Financial experts are clear. Remarriage after 60 is the single biggest financial risk most senior men will face, bigger than market crashes, bigger than medical emergencies. Because unlike those events, this one is a choice. And once that choice is made, it's very hard to undo. So before you consider remarriage, ask yourself this: am I ready to potentially lose half of everything I've worked for? If that question makes you uncomfortable, that's your answer. The second reason experts warn against remarriage is emotional. After 60, something changes in a man's priorities. You've spent decades navigating responsibilities, raising children, managing careers, supporting others, making compromises, adjusting your life to fit someone else's needs. And finally, you reach a stage where you can breathe. You can wake up when you want, eat what you want, make decisions based solely on what brings you peace. This is what psychologists call late life autonomy, and it's precious. Remarriage, however, can pull you right back into that old pattern of duty and compromise. Helen was 74, living in Portland. She told me about her father's second marriage. She said Dad remarried at 68. Within months, he stopped calling us, stopped visiting. His new wife wanted all his attention. She got upset if he spent too much time with us. By the time he was 73, Dad looked exhausted. He told me privately, I thought I'd found companionship. Instead, I found another set of rules. Relationship experts emphasize that emotional compatibility becomes harder as we age, not easier. We become more set in our ways, more comfortable with our routines, less tolerant of conflict. When two seniors marry, both bring decades of emotional patterns into one space. And those patterns don't always blend smoothly. Arguments over small things, who controls the thermostat, what TV show to watch, how to spend weekends, when to visit family. Things that seem minor become major when you're trying to merge two lifetimes of habits. And here's what many men discover too late. What they truly wanted wasn't another marriage. It was emotional rest. They wanted understanding, quiet companionship, someone who respects their need for space. Instead, they got expectations, demands, emotional weight. One senior man told a psychologist, I traded my peace for companionship. Now I have neither. Medical professionals see this affecting health. Senior men in stressful remarriages often experience increased blood pressure, depression, and sleep problems. The emotional toll is real. Now, this doesn't mean love after 60 should be avoided. On the contrary, companionship is one of the most powerful emotional needs in Sen, or life. But experts suggest that relationships at this stage should prioritize mutual emotional support, independence, and balance, not legal obligation. Many senior men find greater happiness in companionship without legal strings. Sharing moments, traveling together, supporting one another, but keeping their independence intact. Emotional freedom means you can walk away from conflict without courts, lawyers, or heartbreak. It's not about running from commitment. It's about choosing the kind of commitment that fits your stage of life. A viewer once commented, I'd rather have meals together sometimes and travel occasionally than live together full time. That's the real happiness. And you know what? They're right, because at this age, you deserve a relationship that takes care of you, not one that drains what little piece you have left. The third reason experts warn against remarriage after 60 is family. When a senior man remarries, it's never just two people involved. Family always comes into play. Your children, your grandchildren, her grandchildren. Suddenly, what seemed like a private decision becomes a family-wide earthquake. William was 73 when he remarried. His three adult children attended the wedding. They smiled. They congratulated him. They said all the right things. But 6 months later, his daughter stopped calling. His son visited less frequently. Family dinners became awkward and tense. When William asked his daughter what was wrong, she finally told him the truth. She said, "Dad, we're scared. We're scared you're going to leave everything to her. We're scared that when you're gone, we'll have to fight a stranger for our own family memories. We're scared we're losing you." Psychologists who study late life marriage say this is one of the most underestimated problems older men face. Your grown children might worry about inheritance. They might feel pushed aside emotionally. They might question your new partner's intentions. And here's the uncomfortable truth. They're not always wrong to worry. The law often favors the spouse over the children in matters of inheritance, medical decisions, property rights. Even if you trust your partner completely, there's no guarantee things will go the way you intend after you're gone. Without careful legal planning, remarriage can unintentionally disinherit your own children. Family assets can transfer to people who were never part of your legacy. I spoke with an estate attorney who told me this story. A man remarried at 68. He had two sons from his first marriage. His new wife had three children from her previous marriage. When he died at 76, his will stated everything should go to his sons. But because he was legally married, his wife had spousal rights. She contested the will. The case went to court. The sons spent 3 years fighting, spent thousands on legal fees, and in the end, the wife received 60% of the estate. The attorney told me those brothers will never speak to their stepmother again. They lost their father, they lost their inheritance, and they lost their family peace. But it's not just about money, it's about emotional connection. When you remarry, your new spouse becomes your legal next of kin, not your children. If you become ill, she makes medical decisions. If you're unconscious, she decides what happens. Your children, who've known you their entire lives, suddenly have no legal say. This creates resentment, suspicion, distance, and your new partner, she might feel excluded or judged by your family. She might feel like an outsider at family gatherings. Suddenly, you find yourself caught between two emotional worlds, trying to keep peace between people who may never fully trust each other. Senior life experts often suggest alternatives, a companionship agreement, living together with mutual respect, or maintaining separate households. This way, you can still experience love and intimacy without putting your family relationships at risk, because your legacy isn't just your money, it's your emotional connection, your wisdom, the values you pass down to your children and grandchildren. When you remarry, those bonds can get tangled. Protecting them isn't selfish, it's wise. One viewer commented something I'll never forget. They said, "Be grateful, be apologetic, be humble. Find someone who knows these things too." That's the kind of person worth keeping in your life, not necessarily marrying. Because at the end of your life, what matters most isn't who you married, it's who stayed by your side, who respected your family, who honored your legacy. And sometimes the people who do that best are the ones who never needed a marriage certificate to prove it. The fourth reason experts warn against remarriage is caregiving. One of the hardest truths about remarriage after 60 is this. What starts as companionship can quickly turn into full-time caregiving, and often it's not equal. One partner ends up carrying most of the burden. Many older men underestimate how quickly health can change in the senior years. A new spouse may develop chronic illness, mobility issues, memory decline. Suddenly, your later years become defined not by peace and fulfillment, but by caregiving stress, medical decisions, and exhaustion. Charles was 69 when he married again. His new wife seemed healthy, active. They traveled, they enjoyed life together. Then at 71, she was diagnosed with early onset dementia. By 73, Charles was helping her shower, reminding her medications, driving her to endless doctor appointments. He told a healthcare worker, "I thought I was getting a companion. Instead, I became a full-time caregiver, and I'm too old for this." Now, there's nothing wrong with caring for someone you love. Many men do it with incredible devotion, but when you're past 60, your own health and emotional capacity matter just as much. The emotional, physical, and financial demands of being a caregiver can quickly drain your strength. And studies have shown something concerning. Senior men who take on high caregiving burdens often experience increased depression, higher blood pressure, and accelerated aging. Medical researchers say that caregiving stress can actually shorten your lifespan. Think about that. You could spend your final years exhausted, stressed, and burned out, missing out on the peace you worked your whole life to earn. And here's another reality most people don't talk about. If you remarry, you're legally bound to your partner's medical and financial obligations. This means if your spouse requires expensive care or long-term support, those costs can come from your retirement savings. Nursing home care can cost $7,000 to $10,000 per month. Memory care facilities, even more. If your spouse needs that level of care and she doesn't have long-term care insurance, guess whose savings will be used first? Yours. One financial advisor told me, "I've seen men lose everything paying for a second wife's nursing home care. Men who should be enjoying retirement, instead they're broke at 78. Beyond the financial strain, there's emotional burnout. Some men lose the joy and peace they worked for, spending their final years managing hospital visits and endless responsibilities. Instead of enjoying quiet mornings, traveling, or spending time with grandchildren, they find themselves trapped in a cycle of caregiving that never ends. This is not to say love after 60 should be avoided, but experts suggest that relationships at this stage should prioritize mutual emotional support, independence, and balance, not legal obligation. A healthy late life bond should add to your well-being, not quietly take it away. Before remarrying, it's wise to ask yourself, will this relationship bring me peace or responsibility? The answer can define the rest of your life. The fifth and final reason experts warn senior men not to remarry after 60 is perhaps the most important of all. This stage of life is about self-discovery, peace, and freedom, not about starting over. For decades, you've lived according to responsibilities: husband, father, provider, protector. But now, after 60, you finally have a chance to live for yourself, to rediscover who you are. When the noise of the world quiets down, remarriage, however, can pull you back into that old pattern of duty and compromise. You may find yourself once again explaining your choices, adjusting your habits, negotiating daily life to keep someone else happy. Many senior men who remarry report that they lose the independence. They just begun to enjoy the ability to wake up when they want, travel freely, make decisions based solely on their comfort and happiness. Psychologists call this late life autonomy. and it's something no man should give up lightly. After 60, your energy, time, and emotional space are precious. This is your era to focus on your health, your friendships, your hobbies, your spirituality, your legacy. You've earned the right to live freely without walking on eggshells or managing constant emotional expectations. Experts also note that many senior men thrive best in relationships built on friendship, not legal commitment. A companion who shares your interests, respects your freedom, supports your personal growth. That can be far more fulfilling than a marriage certificate. Emotional closeness doesn't need to be defined by law. It needs to be defined by mutual respect and trust. In simple terms, peace is the greatest luxury of aging. You can't buy it, and you shouldn't trade it away. If remarrying puts that peace at risk, even slightly, it's a sign to pause and reflect. You've lived enough life to know that love can exist without chains, and connection doesn't have to mean sacrifice. One viewer left a comment that said it perfectly. Instead of living together, just share meals sometimes, travel occasionally, and enjoy life. That's real happiness. Marriage might bring companionship, but independence brings peace. And in your 60s, 70s, and beyond, peace is the most valuable treasure a man can hold. So let me ask you something. If you're considering remarriage, is this decision coming from love or from loneliness? Because loneliness fades when you invest in your health, friendships, and purpose. But regret from the wrong marriage can last for the rest of your life. The experts aren't against love, they're against unwise commitments that take more than they give. Let me recap the 5 reasons we discussed today. First, financial risk far outweighs emotional reward. Your retirement, your savings, your estate, all of it can be legally tied to another person's obligations. Second, emotional freedom matters more than romantic obligation. At this stage, peace is more valuable than compromise. Third, family and legacy complications can destroy relationships you've built over a lifetime. Your children, your grandchildren, your emotional bonds, they all become tangled. Fourth, caregiving burdens can drain your final years. What starts as companionship can become exhausting responsibility. And fifth, peace, freedom, and self-discovery are worth more than marriage. This is your time. Don't trade it away. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you considered remarriage? Do you know someone who remarried after 60? What was their experience? Leave a comment below. Share your story. Your wisdom could help someone else watching this video. If this message resonated with you, hit that like button. Share this video with another senior man who might be thinking about remarriage. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful insights on senior relationships, health, and emotional well-being. You've already earned your wisdom. Now it's time to use it to protect your peace. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself. And remember, you deserve happiness on your own terms.